everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we're really excited because this is our final Hallmark recap of 2022. Unbelievable. We did it.
We made it.
Yes, I'm so excited. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Jazzman is here.
Hey, everybody.
And we're really excited as a guest joining us on this recap is Christine Weatherup, director of See You Next Christmas. And Christine, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. And since so for people that might not know, we've talked about your movie quite a bit. We did an on friendship episode on it. We reviewed it last year. But for people that don't know, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about your movie and
I would love that.
How that ended up all happening.
Yeah, so I'm actually an actress primarily, and that's where I got my start. And then I wrote and directed this feature, See You Next Christmas, that is set at the same annual holiday party over the course of 6 years. And it's sort of an enemies to friends story where you see this couple who meets at the holiday party meet continually year after year until maybe by the end they may end up together. Sort of an indie When Harry Met Sally with like a little bit of same time next year. Or 4 Weddings and a Funeral, those kinds of vibes. Yeah.
So how did you get the idea to do this movie, to do a Christmas movie, to direct it? How did that all happen?
Well, I've always wanted to direct. So I was looking for something that I could do sort of on a budget because it was my first time directing a feature. And then also I love Christmas. So to spend all that time, because you have to spend so much time making a movie, you know, like between writing it, blah, 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 all of the pre-pro and like listening to Christmas music to get in the spirit. This gave me an excuse to do that all year without people commenting on it. I could listen to Christmas music in June. And also I myself throw an annual holiday party. So that was sort of the kernel of the idea. And I thought, wouldn't it be neat if people actually met at one of my parties? And like, what would have happened if that, you know, because we've had friendships come out of it. No romances that I know of, but maybe in time.
Yeah. Well, that's so fun. And you filmed this like right before everything closed down, right?
I did literally 2 weeks before we wrapped, before it was, the end of February 2020 that we shot it in my apartment, half of it. So talk about indie filmmaking.
Well, in these 3 movies, this is your first ever Hallmark movie that you've watched.
That
right?
is true. As someone who loves Christmas, it's very funny. I never had gone down the Hallmark rabbit hole, and this podcast gave me the excuse to do it this year.
Yay! Very good.
You're indoctrinating me.
Yes. Well, Jazzman, how do you feel the season has been for Hallmark now that we're at the end?
You know what? Since we're at the finish line, I will have to say they got like an A- for me this year.
Mm-hmm.
B+ A- for me this year. Like every week they've just been hitting back to back, even different stories during each week. I'm blown away.
Yeah.
And like they included everybody. They mixed it with inclusion. We got our first, LGBTQA+ movie. Like they've been stepping up the bar.
Yeah, they really have been trying to do different stories. It's not all just the city girl goes to the country and meets the hometown hunk. As much as we love that, don't get us wrong. But yeah, there's been a lot of variety. There's been mysteries. There's been dramas. They have this Kwanzaa movie. They have the Hanukkah movie. I mean, there's really been a lot. I think people would be genuinely surprised if I think a lot of people write these movies off without having actually seen them. And
is that why you invited me here? Am I that person?
We're gonna win you over, and then you can spread the word.
There we go.
So, but yeah, I think that people would be genuinely surprised. I mean, obviously they're not all winners, but there's been some real good ones this year. I would say this has been a strong year for Hallmark and a really strong year for Lifetime, which is good because last year Lifetime was rough. It was not my favorite, but this year was much better. So, but anyway, so we're talking about holiday heritage. It was the night before Christmas and 5 more minutes, moments like these on Hallmark Channel, Hallmark Movies and Mysteries. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I did a separate recap of Hanukkah on Rye with my friend Stacey Agdern, who's a Jewish romance novel writer. So that's a really fun episode. So if you're looking for that recap, that's where that is. But let's dive in. Let's talk about it. So we're going to start with Holiday Heritage, and this is on the 16th, and it stars Lindy Greenwood, Brooke Darnell, Holly Robinson Pete. And as Ella returns to her hometown to mend fences with her fractured family, with the help of Griffin, her ex-boyfriend, she encourages her family to celebrate Christmas and Kwanzaa and to heal their past wounds before it's too late. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, Jazzman, is because you celebrate Kwanzaa. Is that correct?
Actually, that is totally true. I started celebrating Kwanzaa like when I was in high school. So I remember my aunt, even before then, my aunt would celebrate with my great grandma as they were growing up, and just learning the different Swahili words, going to different events in our city where they will host different activities. They talk about Kwanzaa. We did a little bit of everything, and it's not really founded on religion. It's founded on like our heritage, to relearn like our heritage, to relearn, about community, family, just, counting down to the end of the year and just being thankful with the principles.
Mm-hmm.
And it really did stick with me in high school, got to college. I can't bring everything with me in my dorm room, but I still celebrate those things. Even a couple of years ago, I'm just, doing like little posts on Instagram, and one of my friends was like, I did not know about Kwanzaa. She's like, I'm definitely doing this next year. Just having the awareness, because not a lot of people know about Kwanzaa. Yeah. It's not a federal holiday or anything. It's just, it's part of a cultural, celebration. And not only about, some parts of the US that celebrate it, a little bit of Canada, a little bit of the Caribbean. It's not national, not celebrating Africa or anything. It's just about getting back to our roots. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited when, Hallmark was like, we're doing a movie based on Kwanzaa. I was like, okay, finally, I've been counting down like what year it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, because even like BET Plus and some of those other networks, they haven't done, to my knowledge, Kwanzaa movies. So this is really pretty unique. And I was excited about it because it's something I know almost nothing about. So I was looking forward to watching it. And overall, I enjoyed the movie. What did you think of this one, Christine? Overall,
I enjoyed it overall. I feel like similarly, I didn't know too much about Kwanzaa, and so I felt like they dealt with, they educated the audience without sort of talking down to them, and I felt like the chemistry of the leads, I think, is particularly Brooke Darnell, I thought was really charming and for me carried that thread really well. And are we allowed to say spoilers of what happens?
Yeah, it's a recap.
Okay, that's what I thought. But before I spoil, but that last scene toward the end, where they're dancing like that to me was the promise of the film, that sort of joyous. And I think it was slow in places leading up to it, but when it got there, I felt like that was where the film was leading, and it was really fulfilling to get there.
Yeah, that whole celebration sort of montage was very rewarding and effective. I agree. Jazzman, what did you overall think of the movie?
Ooh, this film has been up and down with me. I had to watch it like 2 or 3 times because it's been up and down. For the first run, I was like, okay, I'm watching it. Second time, I'm definitely critiquing it. Third time, just give it to Hallmark for their version of Kwanzaa. I love the fact they did try to bridge in Christmas and Kwanzaa, because people, in my community, they do celebrate both Christmas and Kwanzaa. But the fact I got there about 45, about almost over an hour into the movie to get to Kwanzaa, I was like, this is kind of like, we're talking about it, we're seeing all this thing, because that nitpick little, question that dropped during the movie, like, we're supposed to have this silent auction. I wanted to see Ella's pictures. But other than that, it was, do I love it? Like 100%, like I can't love it, I can't hate it, but it's like I'm in the middle of it, because like I love that they finally gave us this representation. I thought we could have got a little bit more.
And I wouldn't have minded focusing more on Kwanzaa. Like if it had been 10 or 15 minutes of Christmas at the beginning to get to Kwanzaa.
Yes. It was like 4 days worth of Christmas. I'm like, wait a minute, they're talking about Kwanzaa. Like, maybe she came in maybe like the Christmas Eve and knocked out everything and then got straight into Kwanzaa. I would have 100% agree with it. But it was just like, it was more towards the fact that we had Christmas, and then, oh, we're talking about Kwanzaa, and then
Yeah. I can see what you're saying. For me, where I in general enjoyed it. For me, where it didn't work was the conflict between the grandma and the mother. Between Holly
Yeah.
and Darling. I just felt like that was so negative and just not in keeping with the tone of the movie. And I feel like if you're gonna have that kind of fighting and that kind of conflict, it needs to like really pay off. And I like need to be in tears at the end. And I don't know if I really felt that. And I was just kind of like, can we just move on from this and just be in our cute little romance between Lindy and Brooks?
Well, and it was interesting because I feel like they spent so much time talking about how there was conflict between grandma and mom, but not like giving us the conflict, because conflict in families is so relatable.
Yeah.
And I feel like we just heard them complain, but we never saw the root of it and never got that sort of emotional payoff at the end about it.
Yeah, it was just that she wanted to modernize the baking and the grandma didn't. It seemed like that was about it, and so, and then of course she decides that she's going to move to Chicago, and that becomes, she gets really upset. The grandma gets really upset about that, which I don't even know why she's that upset if she doesn't seem to even really like her daughter that much. Like, I don't know. So that was where I was kind of struggling with the movie.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast.
Calling all Pride and Prejudice fans, Lizzie Shane, the award-winning author of the Pine Hollow series, has a brand new small town romance on the shelves. And this time it has a Jane Austen twist.
In Pride and Puppies, a Jane Austen fan struggling to find her modern-day Mr. Darcy decides to swear off men and adopt an adorable puppy, only to find herself catching feelings for her sweet, not at all Darcy-esque neighbor.
Lizzie Shane's Pine Hollow series has been called an irresistible blend of heart, humor, and a whole lot of puppy love.
Don't miss Pride and Puppies, available now wherever books are sold.
To learn more, visit www.lizzieshane.com or use our affiliate link in the description.
That's lizzieshane.com. And also they say the never go to bed angry. And I think that, I'm not married, so what do I know? But I think that's really bad advice, because sometimes you need to cool off. And if you don't cool off and wait a day or more, you might say something that you really regret in the heat of the moment. So I think the whole idea of never go to bed angry is not good advice.
I have to say, I'm not so pro that advice myself. As someone who is married, I'm the cool off type myself.
Yeah. People always say that. It's like, no, let yourself
I did like
down.
the grandpa's presence, even though, in the way they did that on a video, it didn't feel, like, I don't know. It felt authentic, and it gave the voice to the grandpa without, him being a ghost or,
Well, and
I wish the grandpa was in the movie. I was like,
I did too.
Like, his presence was just so chill. I understand.
Yeah.
It was like, I feel like this drama that was added into the movie took away from the Kwanzaa experience, because it was just like, okay, what's the drama about? Like, honestly, that drama could have been on, Miracles of Christmas, and we could have hashed out from there. But I'm like, we wanted to see like the rom-com during it all, the community wise. And I didn't get enough of the community either.
Well,
it's like,
so did you, is this Kwanzaa chest? Is that part of like your celebration? If you heard that, you do that?
No. And I was totally really, excited. I'm like, they have a Kwanzaa chest. Like, we have we put ours in like a little box and stuff. And, everything we need, like our candle, I can't remember all the words. I have them right now. I have to have the pronunciations, but I have the, in the candlestick holder, the candles. Like, my aunt, remember when you're just like, I gotta find corn. I'm like, I know. I'm like, Dad, you see the corn on the table. I'm like, what's going on? But I love how they had the chest, and I wanted to know more. I'm like, was this chest passed down to another, to like his father, like, or his mother? Like, I wanted to know more. Or did they create it within their family as a tradition? And we didn't get a lot of that. I was like, I wanted to know. I'm like, this is really exciting.
Yeah. That was funny when the grandpa says that Kwanzaa is cultural medicine for Black families. I thought that was a nice kind of way to
Yeah,
put it.
something about him as the patriarch was really nice because it was, sometimes when you hear like a patriarch of a family, you think of like a really tough, but he was so
Yeah.
warm in his memories and such. I mean, family was at the center of it, but in such a like sort of kind, inclusive, soft way, which you don't often see depicted. And yet we spent so much time with mom and grandma who were sort of cold and less, it was interesting they focused there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I feel like every family has that person that's like the peacemaker and then just
Mhm.
makes things. I know
Even
mine
from the
too.
grave, even from beyond, grandpa
Yeah,
was the
yes.
peacemaker.
And so basically, Lindy's character, she went away. I guess her name's Ella. She went away to Boston, and she had this romance with Brooks Darnell's character. And she didn't realize that he was going to propose to her that day. That she told him that she was going off to Boston, and he's now the mayor of the town. And I completely agree with you, Christine. Brooks Darnell.
He
He's
was
so good.
dreamy. Yeah,
Yes,
he was like, he
is.
was so cute and charming. You could root for him in a way that it's funny because I've been going into this. I knew like a trope of Hallmark films is, going back to the small town and returning and leaving your big city life. And so at first I found myself being like, stay in Boston. But he was so lovely that I forgave her for wanting to move home. I was like, that's the right choice.
Yes.
Yes. 100%.
And they let
I
mom
agree.
leave. So they traded. They had one person coming and another person going. So
Yeah. In his last movie, I said that Brooks Darnell took hot pills, and I think he took them again for this movie. 'Cause he's so good. I mean, no wonder Hallmark just signed him to I think a 4-picture
wow.
deal.
Yes.
No wonder, because he is great. He's really, really, really good. So
Yeah, of the
charismatic.
3 films we're talking about today, he was my favorite of the romantic leads.
Yeah, no question. And I thought that they had nice chemistry as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they do say that Holly Robinson Pete had Lindy very young because there is a 19-year difference, but it looked like more less than that, less than 19.
Yeah.
I mean, they look kind of the same age. It didn't look like a mother-daughter. That would be my only, I'm like, I don't know. And when I interviewed Lindy, she said that when she first heard about it, she was kind of like, how's that going to work? But I don't know. Did you, Jazzman, buy them as mother-daughter?
I saw this as maybe she had her as like a teen situation, and they grew up, basically as mother-daughter, as siblings at the same time. So like, okay, but when she said, you know what, I'm 50, I'm like, Holly, you look good. Girl, stop playing.
This Karamu, is that the right Karamu festival? This big feast. I looked up on Wikipedia and it said it's a feast that takes place on January 1st, the 7th day of Kwanzaa, of the Kwanzaa period. A Kwanzaa ceremony may include drumming and musical selections, libations, a reading of the African pledge, and the principles of Blackness. So is this something you have done, this Karamu feast in your family, Jazzman?
Actually, I have like we did it. I know in the community wise as well, like they'll pick like a certain day. Either they would do it on the 6th day of Kwanzaa, towards like the end, where we'll come together, maybe some vendors doing like little small appetizer type of food, or we at home will make something together. Like I remember one year my aunt made like bean pie. I was like, bean pie, like it's not sweet potato pie, but we'll give it a try because we're doing Kwanzaa, together.
Mhm.
But it just talk about just being together as family, working together as a team. I guess sharing recipes, like in the sense as a kid growing up, I'm like, okay, like we're in the kitchen, we're doing this though, but taking away, wow, like I actually learned something along the way, even during Kwanzaa. Like
Mhm.
I learned about different recipes, different our culture, like why we have different, why we celebrate this, the drums, why are drums incorporated in like our music today, or everything in between. That's right, Nico. Sorry.
Yeah, so there's
But no,
seven principles:
Yes.
unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. And they focused a lot on the purpose one in this one, and the faith as well. And she is doing, like you said, the paintings and I do agree they could have had like a little more of a payoff of those paintings. That was kind of rushed.
Yeah, I was waiting for it too. I was like, I want to see what she's gonna do a painting, or was she gonna, have the 7 principles, and then at the end maybe just draw a picture of like maybe her town, and what means to be in community, and like kind of realize maybe I do need to move back.
Yeah,
that was all thinking in my mind was gonna happen.
Yeah, it felt
but
like
didn't
setup.
happen.
Yeah, I agree. The thing about the grandma is that I don't understand why it was such a problem to have her daughter trying different recipes when it's not like it's a permanent exhibit. It's literally they would sell them that day and then they would be done. So
Right. Yeah, why not try it 1 week and see how it goes?
Like, heaven
Mind you.
forbid she make a bouche de Noël. Like,
Mind you, she secretly takes off one of Micah's like dishes to eat a little bit. Like, how does this taste? Like, okay, it's not bad, but I feel like it was not explained a lot. Like, okay, the Chapel Bakery, like, okay, I understand it's tradition, but like, she didn't say why we had these tradition dishes that were passed down. It wasn't like
Right.
it was a tradition to keep these dishes, or say, you know what,
Like-
maybe we'll try it and see what happens, but we want to stay to our core, or maybe we could add it after the sale and see what happens.
yeah, I think she suggests like ginger cream puffs or something like eclairs
Yeah.
at one point. Like, you could make a batch and literally just eat them yourself. They're no good. Like, I just don't understand the harm. And like, she was making stuff that was really important to her husband and to
Mhm.
remind her she was having a hard time, moving on or letting go of that grief, which I would understand. But I don't know. It just seemed like, boy, you're really creating this divide between you and your daughter over something that you just eat them. They're gone. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's not a permanent thing. Why are you making such a big deal of it? It made it harder to root for the character, I think. And you want like these kind of grandma characters, you want them to be warm and loving and kind. And so it was just a little
Well, and to have
weird.
3 women at the center of the film, somehow the conflict didn't and it could have been. I feel like the
Yeah.
promise of that trio and the actors as well, it could have been something more.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And they do say, what WWGRD, what would Grandpa Riley do? That was cute.
Yeah.
That was cute.
They get back to like, being a kid in Sunday school and we're getting the little bracelets,
Right. Yeah. Where when they announce the paintings, this is when Holly Robinson announces that she's moving, and then her mom gets very upset about it, and they, because of all this conflict, they forget to make the cookies, and so then the cookie brigade comes in, which was really fun. The baking,
That was sweet.
baking
Yeah.
brigade.
Yeah.
That
I
was
wish
really
that
good.
music that they were playing during that montage of making the cookies
Mhm.
was going throughout the whole entire 7 days of Kwanzaa. I felt like I would have had like more beat throughout the whole
Yeah, that was
festivities, and then cool down and pick it back up again. And
yeah, because that was fun music. I could see that. And so then there's basically like this little intervention that Ella has for her mom and grandma, and then they watch the message from the grandpa. It's basically saying like, straighten up, which was nice. And then I agree with you, Jazzman, that the whole Kwanzaa celebration was just really fun. That whole montage of the dancing and the lights and the food looked delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, it's like a celebration. We're cooking like some people cook every day. I'm like, there's more food than I can take. I can breathe in. I'm like, okay, let's keep going.
Yeah. What is your sort of big? Is it the 7th night that you have the big meal, the karamu?
I believe we do have it on 7 nights. Some people have it on the 6th. We either do the 6 or the 7, depending on which year it is. And we have like, a little bit of everything because we're trying to finishing off Christmas dinners throughout the week. But I know we either we get ready, especially because New Year, we get ready to make black eyed peas. We get ready to make collard greens. Just staples to get ready for the blessing to the new year. So we definitely have those 2 staples in our dishes for the new year. Sometimes people bring in gumbo, depending on how we're feeling this year. Like, are we having gumbo this year? But make sure we have the black eyed peas for sure, because it's for good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly about all the in the black community make sure they have black eyed peas.
Oh yeah, that's for good luck.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
The
And
reunion.
so do you wear those the outfits that I don't know what they're called. Those,
Either some people have like the dashiki, they have like the I actually have maybe like one or two pieces in my closet. I know you either order them online or you can get them locally if you have local African shops in town. I know here in Fresno, I believe we have one, I believe. If not, I know I can definitely go to the Bay Area or I can go to LA to even grab sets. I know I've seen people wear them either for church celebrations when we have activities there, or we do it during Kwanzaa. And it's really just, amazing seeing all different colors, the patterns.
They were so beautiful. Yeah.
It's just like it's like a royal dress up in the sense of like, in that respect, but same time in the celebration.
It was sort of interesting to see it in the snow, because obviously they were in the Midwest, and to see that sort of like what you think of as very warm weather clothing. I just as a Californian, I just kept feeling cold.
Yeah, I was cold. I was cold. I had questions about that. I'm like, y'all. I
was like, can you wear a jacket?
It's snowing.
Yeah, I forget what Lindy said. I think they were filming this in like September. I'm pretty sure.
This last September?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's a fast turnaround.
Oh, they do in these movies. It's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. they have some that didn't end up filming till the end of October, and they just flip them over so fast. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. So then they announced that Holly is going to be moving to Chicago with her mom's blessing. And they say your dream can grow wherever you feel the sunshine on your face, which I thought was a sweet moment. And then we find out that Ella is moving home, and so she tells that to Brooks, and we get our happy ending. And I would love to see the two of them in more movies together.
Yeah, definitely.
They were great. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I would give this one. I'd probably give it like a 3.5. I enjoyed out of 5. I enjoyed all the Kwanzaa elements. I enjoyed Lindy and Brooks. But it was just the mother conflict wasn't my favorite. But what about you, Christine? What would you give out of 5?
I think that I might do 3.5 as well, because I feel like it was a great introduction to Kwanzaa, but could definitely dig deeper. Like, I think they were kind of like dipping their toe in to see if the audience is willing and interested. And I hope in future years they take a bigger risk and go deeper into the culture. Because as somebody outside the culture, I found it fascinating. And those were the elements I liked best.
Me too. Jazzman, what about you? What will you give it out of 5?
I'm going to give it a 3 because I know it's just like their first, run doing a Kwanzaa movie. But hopefully if they do another Kwanzaa movie, I want them to have like, there's plenty of as they're going each day, but don't put 2 days in one. Like I saw that. Yeah, I'm like, and I want to see more of the community. I only saw like maybe like 3 different, things in the community. I'm like, if this is a community thing, I want to see more of the community. I want to see the shop they're out there besides the 2 bakers, which I'm still confused why they were a beef that no one told us about. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I wonder if they just felt like it was hard to do collective work and responsibility and then cooperative economics. I feel like those are challenging principles to portray, and I wonder if that's why they combine. I think those are the 2 they combined.
I feel like how they have like the market swap with the cookies and stuff.
Yeah,
that could have been scrapped for, being in the community and supporting their small business in their community. That I would have thought like that whole scene could have been for that. Like I definitely would have saw that and saw different like shop owners and everything of that nature. And then like, okay, they're supporting the community, trying to keep everything in center with their community to keep building it and keep growing it.
Yeah.
But I hopefully future could add more, like even the breakdown how to pronounce each of the words. I was probably didn't put it underneath the actual word, like how to pronounce this word as you're following along there as they're pronouncing it. You can be able to see it because that's what we did growing up. Even to this day, like I have the pronunciation if I can pronounce it correctly, each Swahili word, and even I feel like Ella should have had a friend where she stopped by check on her before she left, like, hey, what's that? And then like, oh, this is our Kwanzaa stuff. This is our, this, that.
Yeah.
Like the basics of it until they got into it, because they're saying the word, but like with people like, oh, this is training, but what does each word mean? I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I watched it on replay, so I'm not sure if they had any subtitle at the bottom, like this what this means or this what that means.
Yeah.
It would have kind of helped a little bit in a
I
sense.
can see that. I can see that.
And the
Like you
only
don't
drawback I had was
like
like
you don't want to spoon feed the audience because
that's
then
the
it's
part,
just
yeah.
like then it's just boring. And they've done that. So they did that in some of the Hanukkah movies in the
Yeah.
past, not this year, but in the past, where it's like, we know what a menorah is. We're not it's like, please don't. But yeah, so it's tricky. And so this was a pretty, I think, good base hit, a good start. And it'll be interesting to see what they do in the future.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, let's talk about "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." This was on the 17th. It starred Tori DeVito and Zane Holitz, and it's a former actress trying to break into directing, test her skills with a town's annual Christmas Eve courtroom production in which the true authorship of the famous poem, A Visit from St. Nick, is debated. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this film, Christine, as a director yourself, as an actress trying to break into directing yourself.
I really enjoyed it. In a way, I was like, oh, this is just playing to my interest because not only am I an actress turned director, but my whole family are all lawyers. And so I'm like, like doing a legal drama, 100%. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was my favorite of the three. Like I found it fun and it definitely got me in the Christmas spirit. I feel like the setting was really fun. I thought the performances were fun. I really loved Tori DeVito, the lead. I thought she was smart and funny and just, yeah, she was really fun to watch.
Well, and I think Zane Holtz has also taken hot pills because he was great in this. And I thought that they had really good chemistry. And I could have like almost done away with the whole Lena plot line because it didn't really go that much anywhere and just had it been the two of them as the actors the whole time, because I could have used even more of them together.
Yeah, because I also felt like it did take us out a little bit of like, oh, she got this opportunity for a film that shoots the 27th of December. Like, what movie's starting the 27th? Like, there were so many things in that storyline that just was such a stretch. But yeah, I like your plan. Drop it, and she's in it the whole time.
Well, and also like the idea that this is basically like a long improv sketch. Evidently, like it was a little confusing because they're like writing a script, but then they're like not using a script, and I'm like, is this a mock trial or is this like is there a script? I
love the idea that the audience at intermission gets to do the verdict, that they're the jury. That I thought was charming. I was like, I'd see that play.
Me too. It's like choose your own adventure, the play.
Exactly.
I don't know, Jasmine, what do you think of this one?
When I first heard about it, I was like, okay. So I'm like, okay, we're having maybe a reenactment of the story, but when it was based on a trial, I was like, I'm here for everything. I love the retelling of like who really wrote it. I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, this Moore wrote it. We mean there's another player that actually wrote it. Like I was invested in one where do I need to really look this up? Like, is this really
I did
real?
go onto Wikipedia while watching it because I had no idea. I didn't know there was an argument.
Like I'm just sitting here like they took a spin on a classic poem that we read every Christmas Eve and gave it a mock trial. Like who? And then brought the ghost in. I was like, Hallmark.
I mean, they're expecting this poor actress Lena to be able to just make this up on the fly. They don't even know if like the actor is going to be there. They don't know if Livingston and
and more, yes,
they're going to be there, if they're going to show up. And sometimes they do, evidently, sometimes they don't, in a poof of snow. And so I was just like, this thing is bonkers, but I'm enjoying it very much. I mean, and what a test of your directing skills if you don't even know your actors are going to be present.
Yeah.
Like you,
what
just
lines they're gonna say.
improv, just improv. If they're not gonna show, just improv.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of just play along with it. They're like, well, I think they'll show up tomorrow.
Yeah. And we find out that that Zane's character, that he is the research is his superpower, which I thought was funny. I mean, they really this was probably the most likable lawyer in Hallmark history.
That's funny.
Usually they're like a little shady, a little suspect, you know, to be a lawyer. And this is in upstate New York is where it's supposedly taking place. And so you have this mysterious Henry Livingston Jr. appearing throughout the movie. And then you have Connor, right? Is it Connor? Yeah, what's the other guy's name?
Zane Holtz is Connor. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zane's name is Connor. So then you have Moore there, and they evidently there's the debate about who really wrote it, because it's in Moore's name, right?
Yeah.
It's published under his name, and he says he wrote it for his children. But then the counter argument is that he had only done
he claimed ownership, I think 20 years after Livingston died.
Yeah. And that he never done any other poetry. And
he hadn't used that style of verse or whatnot.
Yeah, and that he didn't believe in smoking. That was like a big thing.
Yeah, because there's that line in the poem about the smoke encircling Santa's head like a wreath or whatever. Yeah.
So that was interesting. And I liked when they were talking about the play and they said it's Dickens with a deposition. That would get me in the door. I know that.
I know, me too. I was like, yeah, sign me up.
So Connor and Tori's character, they both are staying at this bed and breakfast with Edna. And she's definitely like a busybody matchmaker.
I thought she was really fun. I liked her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, she's like my favorite right now because she's like every fangirl who's like living our dream to like, just stay here. I have room. It's like, wait, I'm not missing this for the world. Like I made sure, I was like, you're the number one fangirl. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the banter between Tori and Connor was so good, and that's why I say I wish we'd almost got even more of them. But like when she's like, "Are you flirting with me? Do you want me to be?" That was so fun. And he says, "Our kiss in Christmas Cupid was my favorite on-screen kiss." And there have been, I think, multiple movies called Christmas Cupid, so that checks out.
That's a good title for a movie.
Yeah, it's a good title. Then they make gingerbread houses because they're trying to show Lena that you can that when your brain is focusing on one thing, that you can help with the anxiety and you can help learn your things when you've got your hands doing one thing and then you're listening to you're memorizing your lines at the same time, that there's something about your brain that works. And she's finding true lines while decorating gingerbread houses with Lena. So do you think that's that would be a valid strategy, Christine?
Memorization is one of those challenging parts of the job. And I think that is actually probably a valid, like when you're not thinking about it, sometimes then it can, when you're not worried and focused about it. I thought her tips on memorization were actually probably accurate.
Yeah. And I really liked how they used the chocolate as the roof tiles.
Mm-hmm.
And the gingerbread houses, that looked really good. Because gingerbread houses are impossible. They're so hard.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Even the kits, when
Yeah.
you have a kit, it's still hard.
It's still hard and it just falls apart. I don't know. I have no
But
luck.
between the gingerbread houses and like the Christmas fair, like the Victorian, like walkthrough, I just felt like it had such Christmassy, like
Yeah.
cozy elements.
Yes. Yeah. Do you ever do gingerbread houses, Jasmine?
I do. Yeah, I think last year I attempted to bake. I have the little kit off of Amazon, like the little, the cutout. If I can be able to do it, I'm looking at it like they're all lopsided. Like, how I'm gonna put this together? What's going on? Like, the trees are not connecting. I'm like, did I make them too thin? I'm like, okay, maybe I need to ask Reese Drummond while I'm watching, like, the cookie challenge. How do I fix my dough, please?
Yeah.
I got a kit where it was from Michael's, like a cookie cutter that makes a mini gingerbread house. So like you do the thing and it's like probably 1 by 1 are the sides, 1 inch by 1 inch, and you can do it. And that I could keep together. It was small enough where it didn't have, and they were so cute. We made like a little village of mini houses.
Oh, that is cute.
Michael did not have it in my city. Like, I don't know what's going on. I live at Michael's half the time.
Oh, so good.
We're picking my new like cutouts like every other day. Like, I don't need this, but I'm gonna put it in my collection just because.
Yeah. So then there's this whole one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when he is talking to that reindeer puppet. That was so funny. I thought anytime you need a distraction, I'm your man. I love that. I had a feeling that might have been improv. I kind of wondered if he just improved with that puppet because it kind of felt
I'm
it.
curious. It did kind of have that sense.
Mm-hmm. And that he evidently had signed up for improv because he was going to law school and he thought it would help him. But he hasn't taken the bar, but he still wants to be a lawyer. I
thought it was funny, the idea that like acting would be not the safe thing, but like you'd fall into acting versus law. Because usually I think people think of it the other way, that like you do this reliable thing and you become a lawyer rather than pursue your creative passion. So it was funny to see somebody who became a very successful actor sort of easily and now is wanting law.
He says acting was the road that accidentally chose him.
Yeah, I don't think that happens for actors.
Well, and so then they have this Broadway producer coming in to watch this, whatever it is, mock trial / play. And I think that would be hard to have her in rehearsal because you need to be able to make mistakes in rehearsal. You need to be able to try things in rehearsal. And so to have this producer there, I think would be hard.
I found myself thinking in that scene, because that's when we first see the ghosts appear. And it's like this incredible effect the audience thinks of like the ghost appearing during it. And I thought how like they should have saved that for the final, for the one show, rather than like a rehearsal that's sort of low stakes. It was higher stakes because the producer was there. But I thought, like, what if we saw what the play should have been? And then in the final performance, then ghosts appear and it goes crazy. It would have made that maybe a little more interesting.
Yeah.
But it did give this sense of like, are they going to appear or are they not going to appear? We don't even know.
There was tension about like who's going to be at the show.
And I was just like legit confused. I wrote down, are they improvising this or is this a script? I've lost track. I have no idea. But yeah, the ghost of Moore shows up, gives testimony. Livingston shows up with snow. And Moore says that it was a trifle for his kids, and then his kids requested him to include it in the book, and then that's when they said, "Why would you write Saint Nicholas with a pipe?" Because he couldn't find a rhyme for wreath except for teeth. So that was.
Yeah, it seemed like a stretch.
Yeah.
Like I was on my edge of my couch, like, is this checkmate? Like I was sitting here like, wait a minute, Livingston, you wrote this for real? Like his face was like, okay, I'm really at the dramatic moment, but give it for the ghost though, because they were the actual like drama.
They were fun.
I thought they were great.
They were the drama actors of it all. Like they coming in like theatrically, like dude, I'm like, oh, okay, we got this type of power. They're over here looking like, did you do that? I'm like, no, like it's not our budget.
Yeah. Well, and I loved the whole scene with I guess her name is Madison and Connor cozying up by the fire, talking to tell me something romantic. Looking at you right now, I feel like my heart is going to beat out of my chest. That's great. Love that. Sometimes I feel like the Hallmark movies are actually a little bit hesitant to like really embrace cornball, embrace the cheesiness, like just go for it. We like it. We
Well,
want
I thought
it.
this movie was fun playing up those tropes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I liked about this movie is that it wasn't afraid to just make him like super swoon worthy, really cheesy. That's part of the fun escapism. We know that these aren't like realistic. We're not, I mean, and especially if you've got like ghosts.
Except for the ghosts, yeah.
Like, but I really liked that whole scene by the fire. It was really fun. And then so then he has a daughter, and so that's also part of his kind of worrying about continuing being an actor. He gets this job offer in Lithuania, but he really misses his daughter. So then his mom and daughter come to visit, and they help decorate the tree and everything. And this is when we find out that Lena got the lead role in the movie that starts on the 27th in New Zealand.
Yeah, in New Zealand, it has to leave.
That part. I was really confused. I'm like, not even like sports pool this all. They pull out maybe like on Christmas, like not New Year's Day, like to do sport. I'm like, really? The 20th of all?
Yeah, nothing starts on the 27th, and you find out the Christmas Eve or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. I've gotten the impression that in LA, pretty much like you can do almost anything.
Things slow down. And yeah.
Christmas
the
week
or two, nothing happens.
Yeah. I thought that the Jefferson character was kind of a weird character. He was like managing Haley. I mean, managing Lena.
Yeah.
He was managing Lena, and I was just kind of like, she's never had a lead role. Why does she have this person? Like,
and remember, she was the hand model. Like she was.
Hand model.
Well, and he was the boyfriend, producer, like
yeah. So he was leaving as well to go with her.
It felt weird that he was going to produce it and put all the money in, and then just like jump ship immediately.
That part. So then her friend Haley tells Madison, says, you are the understudy, use the understudy. And of course, I mean, she should have just been it all along, as we've said, but and I thought it was hilarious when he says nothing comes from nothing. Did you just quote Sound of Music to me?
Yeah. Oh, I love that part. Yeah. And then they do a callback another time on. Yeah.
That was good writing there. And then so then the agent told the TV people she's not interested, wants to direct plays. So there's sort of that. In reality, you could easily do, and many people do both theater
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people are like, I'll take any and all jobs.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like someone like Patty Murin, for instance, like obviously has roles on the stage and also is in Hallmark movies and other things. There's so many. I mean, we had great Broadway talent that are in Hallmark movies. You can easily do both. Many people do, because usually your run on a Broadway show is usually just a couple of months, and then they bring somebody new in. And I mean, unless you're one of those people like a Yul Brynner,
unless you're
or something like that, that's like multiple years. But most of the time they bring in new casts and things like that. So it would be no problem. She could do both easy. So then he says he's going to take a law refresher course, and then he's going to take the bar, and then let's see here. And then the cute little line when they says, the only reason you took this case is so you knew you'd see me again. And she's like, guilty as charged.
Yeah.
Why was that like my favorite scene of their bickering? I'm like, I get color for patient. I'm like, this is getting hot, and this is only just a play in the movie. I'm like, keep going.
Yes. Yeah. And so then Moore appears in the big play, and this is, he says, I'm a man who loved his children so much that I was inspired by them many years ago. And that was really fun, cute. And they said they're going to make the play an annual event. So what I would do is, I mean, I guess they're going to have, because they have the jury vote every year who they agree with. So yeah, it could be kind of like choose your own adventure. Like each year could be a different winner.
Yeah.
In the trial. But this case, they're hopelessly deadlocked 9-1 for Moore.
Who do you guys think after watching, or,
Yeah, I think I was feeling Livingston, I think.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think I'm Team Livingston as well. Yeah, I was surprised the movie had it for Moore.
And then they're outside talking, and this is they're talking back and forth, and she's like, just kiss me already. That's good. I loved that. So yeah, I could, like I said, I could have had even more of them, but it was just nutty and fun and weird, this movie, I would say. So I give it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Now it sounds like I in my head I had already decided 4, and now it just sounds like I'm copying you, Rachel.
I know, me too.
So that's what you would give it, Jazzman?
Yeah, I was gonna do a 4.
Unanimous.
All right.
4.
Okay.
We can do more of these. I'm
So-
down for the classics.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
It's 5 more minutes, moments like these, with this is on the 17th on Hallmark Movies Mysteries, Miracles of Christmas. Ashley Williams, Lucas Bryant, director Kevin Fair. And this is the second holiday story inspired by Scotty McCreery's song 5 More Minutes. A young widow's Christmas wish for her son is answered in unexpected ways when she returns to their old home for the holidays. And so I did not like the one last year, the first one. They had a whole emotional cheating element, which really hurt the romance a lot and just made me just not as invested as I should have been, because
You didn't want any more minutes. You were like, give him 30 seconds more.
0 more minutes. It was my least favorite of the whole season last year. So I was approaching this one with some hesitation, and I do kind of feel like it was ambitious casting, because normally we see Ashley as more of a comedic actress. So this was definitely an interesting role for them to put her in. And she actually, I thought, did a really good job. And it worked for me. And so I ended up liking this a lot more than I thought I would. I probably should have warned you, Christine, that this was, because it's on Movies and Mysteries, one of the more emotional ones. It's drama. Yeah. But but I ended up enjoying it because I felt like the little kid was really good. They had a very good kid actor. And I thought that Ashley did a really good job, and that Lucas was good, and they did have pretty good chemistry. So overall, I thought it worked as one of these emotional kind of more stories, dramas. What did you think, Jazzman?
I actually enjoyed it. Just see Ashley outside of her usual tone of Hallmark Channel movies. The fact that she's taking on like an emotional role, I'm like, she nailed it in my book. And it just reminded me of the story. It reminded me of the movie Jack Frost with Michael Keaton in it. I'm like, that element, except for there was no snowman. In a sense.
That movie's bonkers.
Like, I'm just saying, but I'm like, it kind of gave me that little mystery of like, of that Jack Frost in a sense. For 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm here for it. I love the kids like, I want to, I want to say like, I don't want to go to London. I'm like, I don't want to go to London either. I love your town. And then, you just seeing like these little clues. In a sense, like going around, like this little boy here following this little boy from like his same age to like an older kid. I'm like, what is going on? And then maybe
teenager,
the second or third kid that showed up. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, is this? I caught on after the third kid. I'm like, wait a minute, not even knowing the dad in a sense, but I'm like, wait, is this the dad? And I was sitting here.
Well, had you seen the one last year?
I'm trying to remember. What's the name of
the same thing happened last year. There was like a teenage version of her love that shows up and they get to know. And anyway, but Christine, what did you overall think of this one?
I will admit it is not my favorite. And it's not that I don't like drama, because I do like drama. But what's sort of fun, I suppose, is that I knew nothing going in.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the previous one, and I didn't know what was supposed to happen. And in the intro, I mean, first off, in that first scene, they're like, if just 5 more minutes, they say like 3 times in that first scene, which made me giggle. But then when the dad is like, oh, I have a headache, I was like, oh,
you're like,
no.
Oh, no.
And then he gets in the car and it touches his head, and I was like, oh no, and the headlights, whatever. So I feel like I rolled my eyes a bit with some of it. That being said, I thought Ashley Williams, and also not being super familiar with Ashley Williams, and so I don't come in with all of that knowing that she's more of a comedic actress. I thought she was the heart of the movie. She was lovely, and she had funny moments. She lightened it, brought some like quirk to that character that I thought was really nice. And I thought Lucas Bryant too. I felt like, although in some moments I wasn't rooting for them in the sense that like when we first meet him, he comes on a bit strong. I thought he was very dreamy and sweet, and like ultimately it paid off. But when he first was introduced, I was like, he's a little pushy in a way that like I wasn't into. And I'll admit at the end, I was like, you should go to London. What an incredible thing to, like I was team London, and I knew they weren't going to end up in London. So
well, the thing where this movie loses me is the idea that they are going to build this, what is it, commercial zoned like thing. They're going to tear down this like evidently architecturally significant home that like is pretty new and beautiful, and like people are literally going to see this house, just because it's so beautiful. They're going to tear it down and build some commercial property in like the middle of nowhere. Like what?
Yeah, it seemed a little silly.
Ridiculous.
And then when he stood up at the end of like, no, it can't be done, this is personal or whatever, like I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, that part of it. I mean, and we've seen that in there's never one of these movies, we need to have a well-meaning kind condo developer, multiple
just like the lawyers, they need to give one movie for.
And the only movie that comes to mind that had a similar thing about, oh, we're gonna buy the property but we're gonna tear it down was it Christmas Everlasting with Tatiana Ali in it, when they were gonna tear, like if she sold the property.
Were they gonna tear it down?
Yeah, they were gonna tear it down, and because they had been by that lake.
Yeah,
they were gonna tear it down if she sold the property. Like, I'm gonna sell like Barney. Like, I'm not living here. I'm living in New York. Like, like if you like, after she found out about it, she's like, wait, they tear, like that's like my childhood memories, and like to condos. I'm like, that's the only thing I remember.
Like, is there no other land they can build condos on in these towns? Like, why?
That they pick.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I could think of a kindly condo developer was in Kiss Before Christmas last year with James Denton. He has kind of a It's a Wonderful Life kind of arc I like him. Movie. Yeah, it's a good one. But anyway, that whole part of it was just ridiculous. And I like Mark Humphreys a lot, who plays his boss. He's really good. And so I was like, oh, it's a shame they have him in this just silly role. But I liked everything to do with making the house the Yule house, and that was really fun and well executed, I thought, making it really Christmassy. And I did think the little kid was really cute.
I thought it was very cute. I thought it was funny though, because there is a time passage, of 4 years. And that they didn't either try to age him or something, like in that, like he looks the exact same in that opening scene to then we see him and they just put him in like a sweater. So he's like a little more like a little mister with a little sweater. I was like, you could have picked a different kid for the less important opening scene. But that's a pet peeve. That's me.
That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. And so then there was a good joke where they said, what does a house wear? An address.
Yeah. I was like, I should remember that.
Yeah. That was good. I mean, one of the things that I guess I have a harder time with these kind of movies relating to the whole sort of like super attachment to a house, because that's just not my life experience. My parents moved a lot. I just never had that house that was like the house, kind of a thing. So
yeah, and it wasn't about like the items in the house because she wasn't living there. It was just the house,
because I mean, and it makes sense in this case because her husband, who's dead, has literally designed it.
Sure. Although in a sense, you would think that would make her run away from the house, like want to get rid of it in a sense.
Well, I think that's why she did leave. Yeah, but she like actually selling
I suppose
it.
that's true. That it's one thing to not be there, but to sell it is a more final.
Yeah. But they did have some fun little like flirting montages where they're like putting in carpet. Like, I enjoyed that.
Decorating.
That was fun. Painting.
Yeah, there was more humor than I expected, given that I could tell that it was like a heavier kind of thing. Like when he put like the Santa stencil on the window and was like, that's creepy or whatever. Like they made jokes about things,
Yeah, it's true. And then, we see that Adam starts talking to this teenager who's drawing this house. And we find out later that basically that was the 5 more minutes, thing. We also get a cameo from Nikki DeLoach, who was in the movie last year. So that was fun. Teaching luminary crafts, and they said make every minute count. So sweet. So then Adam asks her, what would Dad think about us spending so much time with Matthew, which was like kind of awkward. It's like, oh, okay.
I was glad he asked that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fair question. I was asking the same thing.
I'm like,
she says, I wish I knew I was getting it right with Adam, and that he'll come home and find me buried underneath a pile of candied apples and spiders.
Yeah, like I said, funny things in there.
Yeah. And that's when we so they had this like cute little date, and they find out that she evidently thinks that Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree is an overrated Christmas song.
I know, hard disagree.
I mean, if you were going to say overrated, what would you say, Christine?
What song's overrated for Christmas? I mean, I can think of a lot of bad songs, but maybe people agree with them. And I know, Rachel, you and I've talked about the 12 Days of Christmas. That comes to mind first off.
Yes.
Boy,
12 Days of Christmas and Little Drummer Boy. Those, I mean, I don't know how much people love them. So I don't know if they're
what about
overrated,
the Bing Crosby, David Bowie, Little Drummer Boy?
Yeah.
Don't they do it, Little Drummer Boy?
That's pretty
that
fun.
One I think is a fun one. There's like a few interesting, or Pink Martini has a fun Little Drummer Boy too, but wouldn't be on my list of best ones.
Jazzman, do you have an overrated Christmas song?
Oh my gosh, like it's hard to say because I'm like sitting here like, don't put this on your playlist, don't put this on your playlist. But
I guess maybe I might say the
I know your cat has one.
I know he does. He's like, no. I was like, this one is it. I'm like, I know. I'm about to have to dream like with the Little Drummer Boy for sure. It's like, unless they beat and change a little bit. But as years go on, like I can't say Mariah Carey because if it's on my mood, I'm like, okay, this is overplayed, but like I love her so much. I'm like, okay. But I will probably say Little Drummer Boy unless I find a fun upbeat Drummer Boy song, but that probably has to be it.
Yeah.
Maybe in the sentimental.
We need to have that. We need to have the Christmas tree to play around the Christmas tree.
Another song that inspired a Hallmark movie, Christmas Shoes. Could that be an overrated?
Yes. Yes.
That one is.
That one's rough.
I don't know if it was a
really
Hallmark
rough.
movie, but I know it was inspired a movie.
Yes. With Ashley's sister.
Oh, that's
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
Williams is in that movie. And I did think it was a fun little sequence when she's hiding from him in the candy store and he sees her and he's like, why were you hiding from me? So I was just checking out the candy, make sure it's safe. That was, I thought, a good scene between them. And he, and so they had a near kiss and he's like, I hadn't felt that way about anybody in a long time. And then that Adam says that he wants to stay, he doesn't want to go to London. And she says, it's okay if you're upset with me, but what I don't want you to do is shut down. And he says, I don't hate you, Mom. So it was cute. It was cute. I might have hated my parents if they were saying we were moving.
I don't know.
I was
London
that age.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess part of why I was pro London is like either way they were moving because they were in Los Angeles for those years. So either they
Right.
were
Yeah.
moving and relocating back to where they lived, but not for like 4 years ago. And a kid's life is so long ago. I feel like if
Mhm.
he's going to have to move to London.
Yeah. Yeah. So then Matthew and Adam talk and they said, we don't know what's in store, but we can appreciate the time we get together. And then they play football together. And that's when she's like, I like American football. This is like a key argument of staying, not going to London is she likes American football better. But she goes into the basement and she sees the drawings. And then she has this 5 more minutes moment with her husband. And it was very sweet. Definitely meant to bring on the tears. And then they have the open house with and that's when his boss comes in. Oh, we're making this commercial
Right.
land, real estate. I can't do
And
that.
you knew about it? Yeah.
Yeah, you knew it. Outraged. Yes, and so he declines the job. It's not just business for me anymore. And then they, let's see here. So he sent the teenager to Adam to help teenage him, and that he sent Matthew to her. Is what her husband says.
Yes. I love
yeah.
that because I really love that because I gotta be out for 5 more minutes, but like I gave you 5 clues. Like, what was the 5th clue? Like, I'm really counting. I'm like, yeah.
And then she looks at the picture.
It was sunglasses. It was the drawing.
Mhm.
It was. I was like, wow. It was just like not only did I give you 5 more minutes with with
Yeah.
us, but it was just more of I gave you 5 clues.
Right. And so then he gets them to release the contract and he says, oh, well, we can be friends. And she says, oh, we're going to stay here. And she says, what if I want to be more than friends? Will you go on a date with me? I thought you never ask.
That was sweet.
That was sweet. So considering I hated the last one, I went into this with pretty low expectations. So I think it did help in that way. But I give it like a 3.25.
That's very specific.
Yes. What about you, Jazzman? What would you give it?
I was gonna give this movie a 3.5 actually. 3.5. I was maybe 3.5 or a 4, but definitely a 3.5.
Yeah, I think I like Holiday. The reason why 3.25 is I do think I would rather watch Holiday Heritage again over this. But partly that's just the tearjerkers usually aren't my favorite. But Christine, what would you give it out of 5?
2.167 would be my.
Okay.
I couldn't help myself, but yeah,
Yes.
probably for me, it's a little lower, even though, like I said, I thought Ashley Williams' performance was quite good.
Yeah, she definitely elevates it for sure. So there we go. We did it. We talked about all 3 of these movies. But I think we all agree "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" was the winner.
It was my favorite of the bunch.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, thanks so much, Christine, for coming and doing this. And,
thank you so much for having me. This is like so exciting and so fun. And yeah,
we'll definitely have to have you back again. And if people want to find your movie and follow you on socials and stuff, how can they do that?
Well, to watch the movie right now, it's on Peacock, Roku, Tubi, Amazon Prime, all those places you find it. And then you can find me. Instagram's usually the best place, Christine Weatherup, just my name, or you can find the movie See You Next Christmas Movie on Instagram.
Very good. And Jazzman, how do people find you?
Everybody can find me on Twitter or on Instagram at Shreem16, SHREEM16.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, except for on Facebook, because our Facebook was disabled and we can't get it back. So don't follow us there. But everywhere else, we're on the social medias. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot and people will be able to find us. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We also have our Patreon group, which is really fun. You can be a part of watch-alongs like we did with Christine in, I think, September. It was really
fun.
Yeah. So you should check out the Patreon. It's a great deal and a lot of fun and a great support to us. And then we also have the merch store. We get tons of fun festive designs. And we really appreciate that support also. And thanks again, Christine, and wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And thank you so much for supporting the podcast.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Woo!
Merry Christmas.